Breakfast Central. Nigeria's opposition, People's Democratic Party, has rejected the recent court judgments we threw out the petition filed by the PDP at the Presidential Election Petitions Court in Abuja and upheld the victory of President Bola Tinubu at the 2023 presidential election. The presidential candidate of the party, Atiku Abubakar, during a World Press Conference in the nation's capital, Abuja, says that he will not accept the judgment and will head to the Supreme Court or for an appeal. Our correspondent Michael DBA was at the conference and tells us more.
Delivering his speech at the party's national secretariat in Abuja, the PDP's presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar says he will continue to fight till justice prevails. Abubakar, while reacting to the judgment of the Presidential Petitions Court, which on Wednesday affirmed the victory of President Bola Tinubu, and through all the petition filed by Atiku and the PDP, says the judgment was a rape on democracy. The former vice president says his party will continue to fight to restore confidence back to the nation's electoral system.
The last presidential election in our country, and the way it was managed by the electoral umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission, leaves behind an enviable precedent, which I believe the courts have a duty to redress. Our gains in ensuring transparent elections through the deployment of technology was heavily compromised by INEC. This party gave birth to any other party you can think of in this country today. Whether you call yourself APC, ADD, APM, whatever you call yourself, your mother is the PDP.
The acting national chairman of the party called on party faithful not to lose hope, saying he is confident there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Electoral Act and other laws guiding the conduct of credible election in our dear country are still functional. Close observation from these spaces of Nigerians in all nooks and crannies spell hopelessness and despair since the pronouncement of the judgment yesterday. Lawyers, politicians, and other relevant stakeholders from all divides were also left more confused and frightened, as both law and facts were visibly thrown overboard.
Michael Dibia reporting for News Central.
And of course, joining us this morning is Demola Olarewaju, who is a political strategist, public affairs analyst, and of course a supporter of the PDP. Good morning, Mr. Olarewaju. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Olive. It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Great to have you. Well, I'm not sure if, a lot of people were surprised that the PDP has decided to, of course, go to the Supreme Court. But did you expect that this is where it would head?
Well, on some level, maybe I expected that this is where it would end. I think if the judgments had gone in line with what we believe is the outcome of the last election, then we could have said, okay, let's move on from that. Or perhaps if the judgment had come out in a way that it had laid the foundation of democracy more strongly, then I would say let's not even bother going to the Supreme Court. But that judgment actually it makes a mockery of the work of election reforms started in 2007 by Umaru Musa Yar'Adua and the work of the Electoral Reform Act, the Electoral Act 2022, because that act enshrines digital transmission, electronic transmission into the Electoral Act. It gives INEC the power to introduce electronic innovations. But this judgment goes back and says that, INEC is at liberty to conduct elections the way it pleases, which is not in doubt. But this law totally rubbishes the guidelines of INEC itself. It rubbishes the conduct of elections in Ekiti and Osun that we have seen in the instance of INEC, where results were transmitted directly from the polling units. By the following interpretation, if this kind of judgment is allowed to stand, with all due respect to their lordships, I think it puts the future of democracy and electoral conduct totally at the mercy of ruthless politicians and at the mercy of INEC as an electoral manager itself. So no responsible litigant will leave it there, because if you don't challenge it, which is also one of the things that the justices pointed out, that if a judgment is not challenged, that judgment itself becomes law. In other words, everybody would say, oh, this was the interpretation of the appeal court. So if that judgment is allowed to stand the way it is, the future of elections in Nigeria is in serious jeopardy. So I think no responsible litigant, no responsible petitioner will leave it there. I expect that this should go to the Supreme Court, and I'm happy that both of the at least 2 out of the 3 parties that filed are going to the Supreme Court. I'm also hoping that the APM will go to court on the issue of the double nomination of Vice President Kashim Shettima, because what the judges also introduced is a very strange judgment that doesn't even follow the precedent of the Supreme Court, which was reinforced in the matter of David Leon as governor of Bayelsa. It didn't matter whether David Leon knew whatever his deputy had done. It didn't matter whether his deputy did it intentionally or not. What mattered was that an act had been committed. So in this instance, the court was simply asked to say, was Kashim Shettima guilty of double nomination? And then the court went into the fact of whether he actually intended to be double nominated or not. I think these things need to be made clearer, and I hope that the Supreme Court will make it clearer. At this point, as a Democrat, one can say that, look, even if you are not going to declare anybody president, even if you are not going to say that Bola Tinubu is not president, at least save the sanctity of elections. Let electoral
that would be dependent on.
Let it be guided.
Hold on, kindly.
Anyone would vote for. So yes, I think it should be challenged at the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I mean that would be dependent on if we have a judiciary that is as concerned about what the future holds for Nigeria and Nigeria's political space and Nigeria's democracy. Just the same way that you've shown some concern, like you've said. It doesn't matter who is declared president, but at least the right things should be done. But a couple of the statements that were made yesterday was that law doesn't care about emotions, doesn't care about your feelings, and the law is going to be the law, and some of all that narrative that was painted. But I want to ask if you believe that the PDP had a strong case, at all. People have argued that both the Labour Party and the PDP didn't really even have a strong case to start with, and they really were just wasting the Nigerians' time.
Well, I think, to be fair, I think that, regardless of whatever other party brought up issues, I think the PDP had a very strong case. And this is the reason. The Electoral Act 2022 introduced an innovation into the conduct of elections, and that was digital transmission. Now, when you say non-compliance, when you say substantial non-compliance, initially the old standard used to be that to prove an election was faulty, you had to bring witnesses from every single polling unit across the entire country, which was a very, very difficult standard. That was the previous standard. Now, the Electoral Act 2022 introduced digital innovation, which was that INEC should transmit election results right from the polling unit level. INEC did this in Ekiti State, INEC did this in Osun State. INEC promised that it would do the same thing in the presidential election. INEC did not do that. What PDP went with, one of the grounds that PDP went with is that this is substantial non-compliance, because the Electoral Act grants INEC the powers to set the regulations for elections.
All right.
INEC did that, and in its own regulations, INEC said that results will be transmitted from the polling units. INEC then breached that, did not transmit results directly from the polling unit to the center through the use of the beavers and the IRED. INEC didn't do that.
Okay, Demola.
INEC reverted to the previous method.
All right, let's hold that thought.
That itself is substantial non-compliance.
Demola, let's hold that thought.
I think that substantial non-compliance in this instance will be proven by bringing witnesses from all the polling units, almost 100.
All right, let's come back to talk about substantial non-compliance. Let's hold that thought. We're going to go on a very short break, and when we come back, we'll pick up from where we left off. All right, before we went on the break, we're talking about substantial non-compliance, and I'd like you to, further on that. But also, as you, speak more on that, talk to us about the judgment. You've mentioned areas you're not quite comfortable with. You do not agree with, you hope that there'll be some suing happening as regards the area of double nomination and now substantial non-compliance. Was there any merit in the judgment? Were there any areas that you would say, okay, the justices did right on this subject matter or this other subject matter?
Well, I mean, I think, we would have to look at the judgment and study the judgment. And we'd have to study the judgment because, look, it was an electoral matter. It was a matter in which people voted. It wasn't just a matter of somebody slapped somebody or somebody took somebody's wife. No, it was an election in which people came out and casted their votes. In other words, it was to determine who people wanted to preside over them. So it is very important to be in attunement with the sentiments of the people because it was a matter of elections. It was a matter of the votes of the people. Okay, so in this instance, justice needed because look, the judiciary is a product of democracy. Democracy is not a product of judiciary because even under military government, you have judiciary. You have the judiciary still functioning and interpreting the decrees. Okay, so democracy must be safeguarded by the judiciary in this instance because the judiciary is a product of democracy itself. Now, on the issue that you raised, apart from substantial non-compliance, the issue of double nomination, that's also another aspect that I'm not comfortable with. For me, what that government was saying essentially was that INEC can change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. Because even at some point before the elections, I'm sure you would remember, at some point before the election, a few days to the election, a rumor came out that INEC was not going to transmit digitally. INEC came out and insisted that it would transmit digitally. What this judgment has done is to say that INEC can change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. In other words, after people have commenced voting, INEC then goes ahead to use a different method. One of the good things that this judgment did was that it reinforced or it reiterated the powers of INEC as an electoral manager to set the guidelines for elections. What this court, however, failed to do was say when that setting of guidelines must end. Can INEC continue to make the rules even while the game is going on? INEC cannot still be changing the rules. So I think due attention was not given to the manual and guidelines of INEC itself, on the basis of which emanated as a product of the Electoral Act, which says that INEC should set the rules for electoral conduct. So I think, all in all, we are still waiting for the judgment. I'm hoping that the judgment will be made public at some point today. The parties have 14 days to appeal to the Supreme Court. This is day 3 since that judgment by the law. Day 1 was the day the judgment was delivered. Day 2 was yesterday. Today is day 3. So that's 3 days lost already. And we hope that this judgment will be made public so that we can discuss it more progressively. Again, not with an intention to impugn the integrity of the judiciary, not with an intention to make a mockery of the judgment, but to deepen democracy. Because that is the most important thing at this point, and that is why going to court is very important for all the petitioners.
Okay. Well, it's important, but do you have any faith, in the Supreme Court? I saw a dance yesterday. I hate to mention his name, but, Reno Mockery, of course, doing a dance yesterday, mocking, the Labour Party and saying they're going to lose both ways, even at the Supreme Court. But, does the PDP itself have any faith in the Supreme Court?
Well, to be fair with you, to be honest with you, I have more faith in the Supreme Court than in any other arm of the judiciary, and I'll tell you why. The appeal court in times past has had various issues. There were issues under Goodluck Jonathan, Justice Salami, when APC, ACN at that time was winning a spate of cases under the court. But with the Supreme Court, it's a different thing. The moment the Supreme Court makes a pronouncement and says that so person is no longer the president of Nigeria, so person won that election, from that moment, the entire armed forces and security apparatus of Nigeria switch loyalty. There is nothing that you can do. All they need to do is to get to the bench and say this. If you go to the appeal court, for example, there's a stay of judgment. If the appeal court says that Bola Tinubu is not the president, there's a stay of judgment, nothing is going to happen to Bola Tinubu. Bola Tinubu will continue as president until the Supreme Court determines the matter. But if the Supreme Court says that is the final, okay? From that moment, power ceases to reside with the person with whom the other person is sworn in immediately. Okay, if the CJN decides over the judgment and says I think that this person should be made president. He sweared him in his chamber. All the military men, all the security men, all the DSS, they all become loyal to that person. So I have faith in the ability of the Supreme Court, because the judgment of the Supreme Court is final. And the moment that judgment is given, from that moment, there's a change in power from whoever is president and commander-in-chief. There's a change in power. So there's no fear of repercussion, for example. There's no fear of repercussion, if you understand what I mean. So yes, I think that Nigerians and the petitioners, we are right to look to the Supreme Court for true judgment. I think it's a place where we can expect that justice will be upheld.
It also means that whatever precedence is set, by these rulings would be cast in stone, and that would basically define Nigeria's democracy and Nigeria's electoral processes for the next, forever, until something changes. I mean, I'm talking now about, the rulings that have been given, 25% controversy with regards to the Federal Capital Territory, the double nomination, the, of course, high-handed, INEC, and the issues that they also had with electronic transfer of results. If these rulings are allowed to stay and to stand by the Supreme Court, it means that this is what will define Nigeria's electoral process and Nigeria's democracy going forward. So that might be a thing that the Supreme Court may want to consider, before they give their rulings. But I also want to ask, it's not very popular, but there's a rumor that Atiku Abubakar is still pursuing some cases against Bola Tinubu in the United States, either with his educational backgrounds or the drug, money allegations. Can you shed some light on what that is about and if it's moving forward at all?
Well, it's basically a matter to look into Bola Tinubu's academic records. He claimed he attended Chicago State University. Atiku Abubakar is filing to see the records with which he entered into Chicago State University. Atiku Abubakar, I think, has proven himself to be a Democrat over the years. He has proven himself to be a dogged fighter, as he said yesterday. So he's pursuing it on all fronts. And we hope that the judgment will come out. In fact, before the press conference yesterday, there was a submission by his lawyer, Angela Liu, in that matter in Chicago. There was a submission by that lawyer, and she said that, they need those records in order to attach it to the judgment and present it to the Supreme Court. In other words, if there's new information that is discovered, Atiku Abubakar intends to present it at the Supreme Court and put it out there for the consideration of their lordships. So that's it about the Chicago situation. There's a lot of controversy about, that academic background. If you remember, this is not a new issue. It's an issue that was brought in 1999 by the likes of Chief Gani Fawehinmi against Senator Bola Tinubu when he became the governor of Lagos State. There was that University of Chicago versus Chicago State University controversy. Now, so the records, basically, the academic records, what were the grades he used to enter into that university? What was his course of study? What was the grade he came out with? Can you show us his name on the register? It's basically looking at the records, the academic records of President Bola Tinubu. So I think in that regard, Atiku Abubakar is again working for Nigeria in this instance, and I think it's commendable.
Okay, let's talk about some of the drama that's going on in the PDP. The Minister of the FCT is mobilizing, according to what we're hearing, advocating that some people be sent out of the party, chief of which is the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Tambuwal, and the rest. How well do you think these calls will be made? He's also applauded the judgment of the Court of Appeal as regards upholding Bola Tinubu's victory. What exactly is going on with the People's Democratic Party and Nyesom Wike? Is the National Working Committee going to listen to him? Are they going to suspend him eventually? What exactly is going on? Help us, make sense of all this.
Well, I think Minister Nyesom Wike is dancing to the tune of his present paymasters in the APC. He's trying to cause a distraction to the PDP. The PDP has made it clear that it's not going to be distracted by the shenanigans of any actor of the APC. Nyesom Wike, by his own admission, he worked against the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State, sabotaged his own party. So already that's an indictable matter. He is presently serving with the APC. You can, but it's very clear that the names that he mentioned, I'm interested in the fact that there seems to be no Southerner there. So if Nyesom Wike is saying that the PDP should become a regional party of perhaps maybe just the South, or, so that he can then hand it over to the APC, then it should come out clearly. Because when you say Atiku Abubakar should be suspended, which is laughable, you say because Atiku Abubakar is the national leader of the PDP, and when you say Sule Lamido should be suspended, when you say Tambuwal, are you saying that the North should be removed from PDP? Northern leaders were part of the founding fathers of the PDP. In fact, many more of them at the concept, the G18 caucus was strictly from the North. So I'm at a loss, at what Wike is saying. But it only goes again to prove the assertion that if you are not quick to call out a thief, the thief might turn around eventually and say that, you are the thief. So this decision that has happened with the PDP, I think the NWC should have been very, very clear on the matter of Nyesom Wike and wielded the big stick against him long before now. But then again, I also remember that he has a court, before he started this shenanigans, he had procured a court injunction that, protects him from being suspended from the PDP. So that court injunction has to be removed. So basically what Wike is doing is troubling the PDP. He is trying to reduce the PDP and then take the PDP into his arrangement with the APC, which I think is very unfair. Nobody is going to suspend the founding fathers of the party. Nobody is going to suspend people who have managed to take the PDP from a regional party into a national party. I mean, PDP won Zamfara back to back in 2019 and in 2023. I think that is impressive. This is a party that has been confined to the South and the Southeast in recent years. For that party in 2019 and 2023 to then push its boundaries across the entire nation, regardless of what the Supreme Court or the Appeal Court says, I think, that is a very good step for the party. Those like Wike who want the party to remain, just a regional party, and then, it's working with APCs, negotiating with others, I think, they are thoroughly misguided about the party, which is also something that Atiku Abubakar said yesterday, that no matter what party you are, the PDP remains the mother of them all, because, most of the leading politicians in this party at one point or the other have had to work with the People's Democratic Party. So I think it is very, very curious, that Nyesom Wike is calling for the suspension of people. He himself is the one who should be suspended.
All right. When you say, of course, making reference to what Atiku Abubakar said, that PDP is the mother of the APC, is that also confirming the statements that a number of people make when they say that the APC and the PDP are kind of one and the same?
Well, I mean, Nigerians will continue to see the difference. Those of us who look to the PDP for some kind of, as a kind of different party, we recognize the nationalist tendencies of the People's Democratic Party. It's the only party where, every region, every ethnicity can feel accepted within the party. What the APC is doing is basically this turn-by-turn idea of when the presidency is in the North takes everything. When the presidency is in the Southwest takes everything. When the presidency moves somewhere else. Well, the question that people would ask is, if in your turn-by-turn arrangement, power keeps on rotating between the North and the Southwest, as it has done most of the time, then, what happened? What's the fate of other ethnicities? So the PDP, for many of us, is a more nationalist party. There's that difference between it and the All Progressive Congress. There's also the difference of, the approach to the economy. The APC tends to be more of a pseudo-socialist party that believes more in, conditional cash transfers and tokenism, while the PDP, especially with someone like Atiku Abubakar, believes more in capitalism, let's say private markets, private sector-driven innovation. So I think those differences are clear. But yes, as regards the fact that politicians move, I mean, people like Nyesom Wike himself is proof when Nigerians say such things, because if you are a PDP governor, you are insisting on being a PDP member up till date, but you are serving as a minister under APC, then people will look at you and conclude that PDP and APC are the same, because he's not showing any difference. He's a PDP member who's working under the APC. People like Wike
you're talking
confidence to those assertions.
Yeah.
But those of us who look at it more closely, I think we see the differences between the PDP and the APC.
Oh, well, I'm sure there are a lot of people who would disagree, but there's something you mentioned, now, which is, about zoning, between the North and the South. I don't know if you would agree that it is one of the reasons behind, the seeming anger with the PDP, the fact that they couldn't zone their candidate to the South. I remember your argument then was that it wasn't for the PDP to zone, it was for the ruling party to zone. I remember that very well. But I'm sure that you also realize that a lot of people had, a lot of anger with the PDP for not understanding that Nigeria had just dealt with a northern president for 8 years and deserved, that it moved to the south. Whether you agree with, whoever it is that is meant to zone or not, doesn't matter. But that's one thing that, of course, came up. Nyesom Wike, of course, also had his own issues with, seemingly zoning arrangement with the PDP. I also want to ask if you feel that it has been described as arrogance within the PDP is one of the reasons it's not been able to get the victory that it, feels like it deserves in the last few electoral cycles, especially the 2023 election.
I think people who say that are not being fair to the PDP. The PDP has been fair, to every part of this country. There are parts of this country that have held various high positions that they would never have held if it was not for the PDP. On the subject of arrogance, I think PDP deserves, again, a measure of fairness. Because, look, this party has governed the country, okay? And Nigerians at some point decided and ganged up. The power was in the south, essentially. When Nigerians said they wanted to take power to the north, okay? PDP presented Goodluck Jonathan, APC presented Muhammadu Buhari, and then, so if APC was not held, if APC was not told that, you also have to zone to the same place PDP is presenting from, then why should PDP be bound by that? The only reason PDP did not win the 2019 and 2023 elections was because those elections were rigged and those elections were manipulated, as far as many of us are concerned. And the evidence is being shown already. I think what I am seeing more of, the sentiments that I am seeing more of, especially as a reaction to the judgment from the appeal court, is that Nigerians are looking at the figures again. They are looking at the figures of Atiku Abubakar, about 6.9 million. They are looking at the figures of Peter Obi, about 6.1 million. They are looking at the figures of Kwakwanso. And they are saying that the three of you were from PDP. If three of you had banded together and presented a united front, if some of you had not left the PDP to go and test your popularity outside, then you would have defeated the APC. So I think, it's more a question of the ego of politicians. Nyesom Wike's problem, look, Nyesom Wike did not have a problem when the North was insisting that Jonathan should not run again in 2015 after he had been allowed to run in 2011. He didn't have a problem with that. But now he has the problem with South or North. If Nyesom Wike had been made the vice president or running mate to Atiku Abubakar as he wanted, would he have had the problem with the North contesting? I think that Nigerians need to separate the emotions of politicians from their own interests. The interest in 2003 was simply to get the APC out of power because APC was the incumbent party. Using your votes to prove a point.
Mr. Olarewaju, kindly hold on.
Because you didn't
kindly hold on, Mr. Olarewaju. Kindly hold on. Let me just quickly ask this.
Actually the problem.
Yeah, because if you're talking about removing emotions and separating emotions and personal interest, the PDP had that opportunity multiple times to remove personal interest and and focus on removing the APC, like you've mentioned now in 2023. And if they really were going to do that, they should have realized that when they started to have those frictions with Peter Obi, at the time that he decided to leave, with the NNPP candidate, if they were able to manage those frictions, it probably would have been a walk in the park for them in the elections. But the PDP, didn't, and once again, I mentioned arrogance as it has been described, didn't see that they should have kept their house in order to, get this electoral victory. So you can't now be talking about emotions and personal interest because it's obvious that that's not what the PDP did.
The emotions and personal interest is this. Look, Peter Obi is a politician. Peter Obi, if he had contested and won the ticket of the PDP, I would be here today defending him as a member of the PDP. If Nyesom Wike had won, it would be the same thing. If Atiku Abubakar then got angry and said, look, I'm leaving the PDP because Peter Obi won or because Wike won, we would say Atiku Abubakar is in the wrong. Atiku Abubakar won the primaries free and fair. Simple as that. Peter Obi did not wait for the contest. Okay, so it is his right as a politician. He felt that, I have the momentum behind me. I am more charismatic. I am the most deserving person. He wanted to test his popularity, as it were. But it was not, the voters should not have gone with that. This is what I mean by emotions. It was Peter Obi's fight. For example, there was a point where Atiku Abubakar left the PDP, some of us did not go with him because we felt, this is his own anger. His anger was justified, or he felt his anger was justified. The same way Peter Obi felt his anger was justified. But Peter Obi's anger with the PDP is not the anger of the Nigerians. The anger of Nigerians was that one party from 2015 to 2023 had put us in more poverty than before. That was supposed to be our focus. It wasn't about, let us prove that somebody else can win. Because looking at it now, you've split votes, so the incumbent party remains. We are going to have 4 years. Yes, Peter Obi will be in his house and say, okay, I've shown that I'm popular, I've proved my point to PDP. He would negotiate with PDP. If he's coming back to PDP today, they will roll out the red carpet for him as a politician. But what happens to the ordinary voters on the streets? What happens to the people
time will tell
for the next 4 years?
Yeah.
So politicians will always have their squabbles. Nyesom Wike will have his squabble. He is a minister today. Nyesom Wike is not suffering. He's not using his personal money to buy petrol. Whatever ridiculous price.
Olarewaju, in the interest of time, we would have to wrap it up here.
Interest and there's also the voter interest.
Yeah, time will tell. We'll see how the Supreme Court, goes, and of course, the near future. Thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you.
We always like speaking with you, and we will be talking with you again pretty soon.
Thank you very much, guys. Always a pleasure to be here.
All right.